out of the red corner, an undefeated mixed martial artist holding a perfect professional record.
What's up, everybody? Crossover MMA back in here for one more video. This will be my UFC 309 announcement for November 16th, 2024 at Madison Square Garden. I'm going to go through the entire card and all the fights that have been listed so far, give you an early prediction, and let you know what I think about the card. So without further ado, let's get right into it. In the main event, we have the heavyweight title fight between Jon Jones and Stipe. So coming into this fight has really been holding up the division. I know a lot of people out there kind of like feeling like there's no point to it. They don't really want to see it. And I get that for sure. But going into it, I'm glad we're finally going to get some closure and get some normalcy back to the division. But in this fight, we got some strengths on both sides and weaknesses on both sides. So first, both guys have all this championship experience. Both of them have fought in numerous title fights, 5-round fights. So the experience factor won't benefit one guy or the other. On the Jon Jones side, he's got his length, pause. He's younger, his kicks, his submissions, the variety of strikes, the his in-fight adjustments. I mean, pretty much everything you could want in a fighter, Jon Jones possesses, minus power in his hands. But then when we look over at Stipe, he's the natural bigger guy. He's a natural heavyweight. His boxing, in my opinion, is better than Jon Jones. And I know he's 42 years old, but I think with his natural size that he might have a strength advantage as well. But then again, he might not, because Jon Jones has definitely bulked up, gotten a lot stronger. But just going in, that's initially what I think. Then when we look at the weaknesses of both guys, I mean, the first thing that jumps off the page is the time off. Jon Jones hasn't fought since March 2023. Stipe Miocic hasn't fought since March 2021 when he got brutally KO'd by Francis Ngannou. And in the Jon Jones latest fight, he was literally in the octagon for I think like 2 or 3 minutes and got a first-round submission over Cyril Gane, and then had the injury. So both guys have, a lot of time outside of the octagon, but Stipe Miocic definitely has more. Then we got to talk about both fighters' age. Jon Jones is 37 years old. Stipe Miocic is 42 years old. So father time is undefeated. That's how the saying goes. And we're definitely going to see if Stipe Miocic is still the same guy that he was. And I think in this fight, we're finally going to get to see what Jon Jones actually looks like at heavyweight. The Cyril Gane fight was so short, we didn't really get a lot of questions answered. But this fight, we definitely will get those answered. The third thing for me is Jon Jones's boxing. If you look at all the fights where Jon Jones had some issues, the reason why was because of the boxing. The Dominic Reyes fight, boxing. The Thiago Santos fight, boxing with a little bit of kicks. The first Alexander Gustafsson fight, the boxing. Boxing is definitely probably the one, I'm not gonna say weak spot, because it's not a fault, or it's not a big issue that he really has. It's just when you compare all his other skills, his boxing is the one that isn't as sharp as the other skills that he possesses. For Stipe Miocic, for me, it's the kicking defense. And I think that's going to be huge in this fight, because we all know Jon Jones has an array of strikes, kicks a lot of different kicks. And I think that is going to be something that is very big in the fight. And then on top of it, we got to think about the wrestling threat that Jon Jones is coming back from this injury. He has the torn pec, and he tore it in training while wrestling. So is it going to be something he tries to implement in the fight? And these are questions that, we just don't know. We got to get answered. And then for Stipe Miocic, it's definitely his chin. I mean, his last fight, he got blind by Francis Ngannou. And you never really know if a guy's going to be the same after taking something like that. And he has been out of the octagon a long time, so that might have helped his chin, but it could be one of those things where that fight just broke his chin, and then it's all going from there. And then lastly for me, I would say Jon Jones' cardio with the new body in heavyweight, we didn't really get to see any of that in his one fight in heavyweight. So it takes this fight in championship rounds in the deep water. We're going to find out if Jon Jones's cardio can hold up with that extra weight at heavyweight. And for me, in this fight that I see, Jon Jones wrestling in the clinch, getting on top, ground and pound, his kicks, his submissions. And in my opinion, Jon Jones has the most routes, the more paths to victory, rather. Stipe Miocic, for me, it's got to be his boxing, and he's got to use his natural size to wear down the gas tank of Jon Jones. And ultimately, can Stipe Miocic shock the world? For me, early prediction, I'm going to go with Jon Jones. I think he mixes it up on the feet with Stipe, and I think he'll have a speed advantage as well. I think Stipe will land some counters on the feet because, in my opinion, he counters pretty well. But ultimately, Jon Jones is going to get it on the ground, and could be ground and pound, could be a submission. But for right now, I'm going to say submission. Then we go to the co-main event. We have Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler 2. This is a rematch to UFC 262. A lot of people have forgotten it. Michael Chandler nearly finished Oliveira in the first round of the first fight and was very close to becoming the undisputed lightweight champion of the world. How does Michael Chandler look after being out the octagon for 2 years? Does the winner of this fight get a title shot? Does he get the winner of Islam and Arman? But I know one thing, for however long this fight lasts, it will be a lot of fun. My early prediction for this fight is Charles Oliveira by submission. I think the time off is going to get the better of Chandler. He just doesn't quite get over the hump in his big fights when you think of the Dustin Poirier fight, the Justin Gaethje fight, and the Charles Oliveira fight. When he gets to those upper echelon fights, he just doesn't quite get over the hump. Next fight, we have Nikita Krylov versus Azamat. This is a banger fight, guys. Banger fight. Krylov is finally back after a long layoff. I think this fight is definitely a title eliminator, getting another title challenger for Alex Pereira or Khalil Roundtree, whoever wins at UFC 307, mixed in with Magomed Ankalaev or Alexander Rakic, depending on how that fight goes at UFC 308. And in this fight, we just got the wild man in Nikita Krylov versus the composed striker in Azamat Murzakanov. Early prediction for me, I'm going to go Murz by TKO. The wild man, Krylov, for me, he just gets caught too frequently, and I think he's going to get caught at some point in this fight. But, that could change. Next fight, we have Chris Weidman versus Eric Anders. So in this fight, this could be Chris Weidman's retirement fight. I mean, he's 40 years old. Eric Anders is 37, so, this is definitely a veteran fight. Will Weidman, once again, use the eye pokes as his route to victory again like he did in his last fight? That was very brutal. And also, does Eric Anders get a former champ on his resume? I think that would be very big for him. But my early prediction for that fight is Chris Weidman by decision, and then he retires. Next fight, we have Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig. This is the wrestler versus BJJ matchup. Bo Nickal gets a step up in competition. Does he wrestle? Does he use his grappling? If so, this fight is going to be very interesting because that's exactly where Paul Craig wants to fight. Paul Craig wants to be on his back, in his guard, looking for submissions. And in my opinion, I think Bo Nickal might not grapple. I think he might keep this fight on the feet because I do think he will have an advantage on the feet. Paul Craig striking, you can just tell he's very uncomfortable on the feet and he just wants the fight on the ground as fast as possible. My early prediction is Bo Nickal by TKO. I just honestly think Bo Nickal can beat Paul Craig on the feet. We've seen little on the feet from Bo Nickal, but with that being said, we've seen a lot from Paul Craig, and you can tell it's not where he wants to fight. Next fight, we have Karine Silva versus Vivian. So Karine Silva, does she take the next step? Or does Vivian, the vet, does she stop the surging contender? I'm definitely a believer in Silva, so early prediction, I'm going to go Silva by decision. Next fight, we have Jonathan Martinez versus Marcus McGhee. This is another banger fight. I'm very much looking forward to this. I think this is going to be one of the best fights on the card. It's a striker versus striker matchup. And for me, the question is, how does McGhee deal with Jonathan Martinez's leg kicks? He's one of the best kickers in the division. It's a big jump up in competition for McGhee. I am a believer in him. He made his UFC debut on short notice, got a win. and has looked very impressive in his fights in the UFC. This Jonathan Martinez rebound after his loss at UFC 301 to Jose Aldo. Next fight, we have Gall versus Brahimaj. So Gall is on a 3-fight skid. Brahimaj is a finisher, people. This man has a 100% finish rate, and they're all by submission. So you already know where he wants to fight. So early prediction for this, I'm going to go with Brahimaj by sub. Next fight, we have Veronica Hardy versus Moura. So in this fight, we got the classic striker versus grappler matchup. Hardy's the striker. She's definitely going to have the advantage on the feet. She's definitely going to have a speed advantage as well. But Moura's going to have a size advantage, and she will definitely have a strength and grappling advantage in this fight. It's really going to come down to if Hardy can keep this fight on the feet, because Moura, like, she tries to implement the grappling so much that she pretty much gasses. I mean, her last fight, she definitely, like, her cardio was definitely an issue. So we're going to see if it's something that she's remedied. But early prediction, I'm going to go Hardy by decision. Thank you, everybody, for all the support. If you enjoy the content, like the video. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And until next time.